Are you ready for some football? It is Thursday. What is it? September 5th, kickoff day of the NFL. The Vikings play a game on Sunday. What is that? The 8th, I think. What a time to be alive. We made it. All off season, the Vikings dealt with a lot. We've covered it all, whether it be injuries, unfortunate, passing away of a player, the injury to the quarterback who, we all had such high hopes for. Just a brutal offseason for Vikings fans, I would say. But it all pays off because we get to watch Sam Darnold go out there and sling it for hopefully 18 weeks with 1 week off in between. And maybe we'll talk about playoff predictions at the back end of this show. Maybe we'll get a 19th, 20th, 21st. Maybe we'll get into the 20s for Sam Darnold Viking games. They do take on the New York Giants. Are going to get into that first things first. Before we do any of that, Will, who you can find on Twitter at WillBadLose, how are you this week?
Feeling like a flamingo. Lots of pink today. Pink on your side, pink on my side. We did not color coordinate. We are not normally this preppy. I think it's because we are in the middle of finishing our work days. So Don't tell our employers that we are doing a podcast at 4 p.m. on a Thursday.
Absolutely.
I also throw that 4 p.m. in there because when we get to our playoff picks at the end of this, I want you to know that we made these predictions before the Chiefs and the Ravens kicked off. So there's none of that. No NFL season has played out when we made these picks. Just so we have set the record straight on that.
Yes.
But yes, Jordan, I'm doing great. I'm excited to get into this. What about the Giants? Excites you or scares you or any of the above?
Elephant in the room. Let's get into it. Sam Darnold. I have no idea how good he'll be. It was in OTAs back in the spring. It was, this guy's going to surprise some people. This guy's talented. This guy's and then the pads went on and it was like, oh my gosh, hey, there's reason to be concerned down there. He's still showing flashes of executing the offense, but maybe he's not going to, be like leading the Vikings to this 15-win season and, career resurgence, and he's going to have like his Kurt Warner, I was down but not out. I didn't hear no bell. Second run, if you will. So I'm excited to see Sam Darnold. I'm excited to see specifically because I've seen Sam Darnold. We all have for 7 years now. I'm excited to see what Kevin O'Connell does to minimize the mistakes and make the game a little slower and a little easier on Sam Darnold. Obviously, the Giants are going to do everything in their power to make the game seem fast and, get him seeing ghosts. But I'm confident in O'Connell's ability to take a guy like Sam Darnold. When we saw what he did with Hall, Mullins, and Dobbs last season, I'm excited to see Darnold come in, I think, elevate what we saw last year. Not quite what we had with Cousins, but not quite the lows that we had with the three guys that I mentioned just now. So I'm really excited to see it. What do you think we're gonna get out of Darnold? And I don't want to get a full season prediction. Just on Sunday, Sunday at 5, let's say. Are we gonna be like up? Are we gonna be like, holy cow, Sam Darnold? Like, this is gonna be a fun year? Or are we gonna be in the dumps a little bit?
I think we're probably gonna be sort of in the middle. Honestly, I don't expect Sam Darnold to go out there and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns and not turn the ball over and be perfect. I think it's going to be something more like a run-of-the-mill, maybe 200 yards passing. If he can minimize mistakes, especially here early in the season, when you're trying to set a baseline for what this offense can be, and we all remember last year how there was high hopes for that team, and rightfully so. 13 wins the year before, and they just fell apart so quickly because of the turnovers. Some of that was the quarterback's fault. Some of that wasn't the quarterback's fault. But in general, I think we all agree it starts with the quarterback. And so if Sam Darnold can protect the ball, which I do think he'll do a decent job of here early on, I think he's probably going to be asked to make safer throws. We're not going to ask him to unleash too many, deep balls down the field in week 1. However, he does kind of have that gunslinger in him a little bit. He has a really good arm, so I could see him chucking up a few. It's kind of in his DNA, but I don't know. I think win or lose, Jordan, I think on Sunday evening we'll probably all have a feeling of I was okay, and I think we'll probably have the reality of Sam Darnold's going to be okay. I don't think I don't think he's going to be terrible. I think he's a guy that has been maligned all of his career because nothing has worked out for him, and rightfully so. He hasn't played well, for the most part. He had flashes in Carolina, but um, I also think that I trust what this coaching staff can do with him. So I think week one will be sort of the first iteration of that. Sort of meh, sort of okay, but hopefully no big mistakes. One thing I do want to just touch on, he was asked in his, starting quarterback weekly press conference yesterday, Wednesday, about how he felt about going back to MetLife Stadium. And you could tell the question was asked in a way that was maybe a little bit unfair. Like, hey, Sam, you're going back to the place where things didn't go great. How you feeling? Kind of like a little bit of tongue in cheek way of asking the question. And all of that was implied, I think, in the way the question was asked. And he sort of just said, uh, yeah, I'm excited to go back to Jersey. It was just a funny response. You could tell he had no interest in talking about the Jets, his experience, MetLife Stadium, any of that. Um, so hopefully he can block that out and just go play and um, let the game take care of itself.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping for a nice even like I'm hoping for 250, 250, one tud, no picks. That's the stat line I want to see. I just want to see effective offense. Hopefully it is 200 and Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, get things moving on the ground, which I think we'll move to talking about here in just a second. But I don't know, as a Justin Jefferson fantasy manager, would like to see the pass game go. I've got some Jefferson predictions for final thoughts and things. Spoiler, I'm going to do MVP prediction for my final thoughts, unless you want to do that with like the predictions, but it's up to you, whatever.
Whatever you want.
Yeah. But yeah, so I want to see Donald like prove that he can run this offense with minimal training wheels, but not look like the offense has to go through him. If that makes sense. And I think that's what every team is saying right now. The Chiefs are saying we want this offense to look balanced because we know we have Mahomes. And I'm saying I want the offense to look balanced because we know what Sam Darnold looks like if you put it all on his shoulders, and it kind of falls down and it doesn't look very good. So let's talk about that run game. Will, I'll let you kick this one off. How important is it for the Vikings to get off to a good start running the football, and do you think they'll be able to do it? The Giants' defensive line, the Giants don't have a very good team, in my opinion. Their defensive line can go with the best of them. It is the thing about them that makes them scary, in my opinion. It's, Bounds and Dexter Lawrence and all these guys. So, will the Vikings get it going? How do they get it going? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the thing I'm maybe more worried about in regards to New York's defensive front is the passing game, because I think we know Sam Darnold, like many quarterbacks, has not succeeded when under pressure. That's maybe to put it kindly. And so, two really good edge rushers with Brian Burns, who came from Carolina, and then Kayvon Thibodeau, one of their recent high draft picks. They can get after the passer, and Dexter Lawrence himself can rush the passer, big nose tackle of a man that he is. And so that, I think, maybe worries me more, because if the passing game can't get off the ground at all, the running game is going to be in deep trouble. So, but when I think about your running game question directly, I don't think of this game as the Vikings need to run for 100 yards, or the season's going to go to crap. I don't think it's going to be that vital for a super prodigious running day. What I want to see, though, is when they do run the ball, it's efficient. We're not losing yards. I think that's been a common theme in the O'Connell era, is when the run game has struggled, it's Cook and Madison losing 2-3 yards. And then you're not only behind the chains, you're setting yourself into sort of second and long and third and not even manageable. And so I just want to see positive and relatively efficient. If they can run for 4.5 yards a carry in this first game against this stout front, I'll be okay with that. Because I think what I'm worried about is if things go sideways and the run game does not go well, even if the Vikings win the game, let's say they win the game and the passing is proficient and the defense plays out of their mind, and you don't need to run the ball well to win. I think what I worry about then is moving forward, they tend toward that same theme of, well, maybe we're not a running team, sort of like they have been in these couple years since O'Connell got here. I think they have been too gun shy when things haven't gone well on the ground, and they sort of just back off of it and rely so much on the passing game. And like you just said, we can't rely on Sam Darnold to win games this year. It has to be a complementary offense. So I think that's my fear. Even if the stats aren't great, it needs to be somewhat efficient to put some sort of a foundation for week 2 and beyond. Because if you look at the schedule beyond this week, defensive fronts get no easier. It's San Francisco, and then it's Houston. I'm not too. I don't think Green Bay is necessarily as stout as those other teams, but there's nothing easy on this first part of the schedule. So if you get off to a rough start and abandon it here in week 1, you could be in for a troublesome start to the season.
Yeah, I like what you say, and a part of me loves that O'Connell abandons the run, because it is frustrating to see your team, like, run the ball for like 2-yard losses just out every drive, or at some point during every drive it's like, and there's the drive killer or something like that. So I think it was frustrating seeing some of the Mike Zimmer teams just kind of bang their head into the wall over and over again for minimal success. But I do wonder if the Vikings defense is going to be good enough to a point this season and sustain it throughout the entire season that, you know what, yeah, we're going to bang our head into the wall a couple times. And we have Aaron Jones now. We've, made some switch ups, one switch up really, but along the interior offensive line, we're going to trust that those two changes are going to let us run the ball a little bit better. I'm not saying they're going to be Baltimore and they're going to dominate the league with the rushing attack. I'm just saying, could we get like consistent 75, 80 yards out of Aaron Jones? Could Ty Chandler come in and give you 50? Maybe even less than that. Maybe like 25 to 30 a game. But like average as a team a little over 100 yards, and then that opens things up so tremendously for Sam Darnold. Like you said, this is a tough matchup in terms of the defensive front that we're looking at. So if they do only get rushed for 90 yards as a team, I'm not going to be like, well, they didn't get that 10 extra, so I'm actually all out on this team now. But I do think it's going to be a super important aspect. Let's talk about that defense for a minute. Oh, go ahead. Do you have...
Just quick thing on this that I think needs to be mentioned. It's, take this with a grain of salt. It's, the context is necessary in that last season was sort of a lost season for the Giants. Daniel Jones missed half the season with multiple injuries. They were starting guys from the Italian mafia half the time. It was a messy year. And honestly, I have no idea what the health of their defense was, but they were a bad run defense last year. They gave up the 30th, I believe. Let me see, 29th most or 29th worst yards allowed. So I guess that'd be the 4th most yards allowed on the ground, and they gave up the 2nd worst yards per attempt. So something to keep in mind. Now they didn't have Brian Burns last year, of course, and like I said, I'm not sure what the Lawrence and Thibodeau health was, but something to think about. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there for context. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I appreciate the context too. Because everything you said is accurate. The Giants are very different than they were last. I mean, Tommy DeVito, I don't think is going to make an appearance this year, no. Which is, it kind of sucks because that was a fun story. But they are back to Danny Dimes, and it is funny that they are back to Daniel Jones, and this is big, like, return from the injury and yada yada, because it's like, hey, we made this guy. Ed Donatel got this guy paid 2 seasons ago. 3 seasons ago, whatever you want to say. And now it's Brian Flores and his defense that I think is going to make Daniel Jones's life a nightmare. If I'm not going to give my game ball score prediction, all that, I'm going to say this: the Vikings, if they win this game, and if I think they're going to win this game, it's because Brian Flores is going to make Daniel Jones' life a living hell all Sunday afternoon. And it's going to be blitzes, disguise packages. I think you are seeing it's still not at its completion, too. That's the crazy part. Like, Brian Flores, his defense, I would say, is like 70% done. And he still needs a couple counters, a couple things like that. But I think the players he has on the field this season, there's some major upgrades from what was in there last season. So I think you're going to see that defense be more consistent and a little bit better than they were last year. So don't be shocked if the score prediction for me looks a little something like 13-17. As Daniel Jones just struggles consistently all day. And I want to get your thoughts on this defense. The pass rush depth, we talked about it all offseason. The linebacker depth, which is kind of the pass rush depth, but like the inside linebacker depth, if you will, the off ball, whatever it's called. What are your thoughts on this defense? What gets you the most excited about, Flores' defense going out there and getting it done?
For week 1, it's everybody's healthy right now. And obviously that ignores the death of Kyrie Jackson and the Mekhi Blackman injury. But if you look at the pieces that they have today, nobody's on the injury report, and that's huge. Shaq Griffin missed almost all of training camp with an injury. He's not on the injury report. So looking like he's going to play. I would assume he starts. Stephon Gilmore's healthy, of course. Week 1, everybody's out there. So I think the iteration that we saw at the end of last year, where there was sort of a cobbled together group of guys, Byron Murphy was running around with like a torn something, right? I mean, he was injured pretty badly down the stretch, but he played through it as best he could. I'm excited to see what he can do here. I think we all would probably agree that defenses tend to start a little faster than offenses. It's kind of like that in many sports, honestly. But I think that also plays in the Vikings' favor in this game, because I think their defense is going to make Daniel Jones really uncomfortable, to your point. So I think the thing that gets me the most excited specifically for this game is the pass rushers. It has to be, right?
Yeah.
It's Dallas Turner, his NFL debut. It's Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard, their Vikings debuts. All 3 of those guys have been really had their praises sung by the Vikings coaching staff all summer. And I'm really excited specifically to see what Van Ginkel can do. We didn't see anything from him because he didn't play in the preseason. He was a little bit nicked up at the beginning of training camp. So he's sort of this best kept secret on the Vikings, and the way he's talked about is very encouraging. His versatility, his flexibility. He's sort of like inverse of Josh Metellus, it almost sounds like, just in the way that Flores is going to mix and match him depending on personnel groupings and everything. So I'm really excited to see what those guys can do. Even throw in a guy like Jihad Ward, who played for the Giants, I believe, and is known as a guy who is just going to run through a wall. And he told Kevin O'Connell something the other day where when he was asked, hey, man, do you want to play in this last preseason game against Philly? He told him something to the effect of, well, if you don't put me in the game, I'm going to go out in the parking lot and start my own game because I need to go play. And this is a guy that I think is motivated. He's had a bouncing around career. I think he's now on his 7th or 8th team. And so he's a guy that's motivated. He played for the Giants the last 2 seasons. He's also in that edge group. So what the pass rushers do, how they can get after Daniel Jones is super intriguing. Again, for an offensive line that I don't think is great, for an offense that isn't very good. it's really interesting, really intriguing. I think it's going to be a really impressive start to the season for the defense.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I like that you said it has to be the pass rush because it does. I mean, look at what they bring in Gronald and Ben Ginkel and Dallas Tono, and those are the big sexy names because I think they're going to be exciting to watch play defense because there's going to be a lot of plays that just end in sacks for the Vikings, and that's always the most exciting type of football. Is whenever there's no anxiety, there's no oh my gosh he's had forever to throw the ball. I mean, I do think quarterbacks are going to be under duress all season, starting with Daniel Jones on Sunday. And what's going to be crucial is can the secondary just hold up for 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds. Like they I don't think they need to hold up for that long. It should be pretty consistent that the Vikings bring some heat. But is the secondary going to be able to take away the underneath stuff, play aggressive, jump a couple routes, really force Daniel Jones to beat them with his arm, which I think he's incapable of doing, and not do what Ed Donatel did, which was, give 20 yards of cushion and let them eat you up underneath with your, 37-year-old defensive backs trying to chase 25-year-old wide receivers down. And don't get me wrong, some of those old people are still here. And we have new old people like Stephon Gilmore, and Harrison Smith is still here. So I think, it's important to try and not put them in situations where they're manning up a 25-year-old wide receiver. That's probably not ideal with no help over the top or anything like that. I think you do have to understand your personnel. But I don't know. I'm very excited about this defense. I'm super excited. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. I'm sorry. Will Ryko, let's go. Debut for, I believe, number 16. He said, Jaron Hall, I'll take that. That's why they released Jaron Hall, by the way. I have Celsius telling me it was because Will Reichelt said, I want his number now. And they said, yes, so, Will Reichelt, kicker from Alabama. So, Will Reichelt's debut, I'm super excited about that. And Ty Chandler making his debut as the kick returner for the new kickoff. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be very, very fun. And do you want to get into score predictions and game balls?
Yeah, just one quick thing first. Did you see Will Reichert's Walmart back to school ad?
That's not real, right?
It's so real. He has a sponsorship with Walmart. You need to Google it. It's hilarious.
What?
It looks like Will Reichert is going into 8th grade in this picture, and the photo was probably taken last week.
Will Reichert looks like an 8th grader. Like
Exactly. He's got the long swoopy comb over hair. Yeah, super baby face. It's hilarious. So for those of you listening, go on, I think it's Instagram, and find the Will Reichert Walmart ad. It's quite nice. Last just quick thing before Jordan comes back on camera here. I think he deserted me. Regarding the Giants offense that I think is noteworthy. We've talked a lot about Daniel Jones and the weapons have changed and all that. Saquon Barkley is gone. They have a new number 26 at running back. So if you see 26 in blue carrying the ball on Sunday, or actually I think it's red, they're wearing those awful throwback jerseys. If you see 26 in red carrying the ball, it's not actually Saquon Barkley, so don't have a heart attack. It's Devin Singletary. So good player, but not Saquon Barkley. The guys that I wanted to mention, though, on the outside that I think is something to keep in mind and pay attention to if you're a Vikings fan who hasn't watched much Giants football. Jalen Hyatt, second-year receiver out of Tennessee. He's a burner. He's the guy who's going to run straight down the field and try and outrun people. Deep threat number 13. And then really the main attraction is Malik Neighbors. He was the first-round pick of the Giants, 6th overall this last season out of LSU. Some had compared him to Justin Jefferson, which I feel like is just sort of unfair to everybody involved, but you can leave that to the side. Those two guys, two young guys, two very talented guys, how the Vikings contain them is going to be incredibly important in whether or not the defense can win this game. Because outside of those guys, the weapons on New York do not worry me. What worries me more is Brian Daboll's ability to scheme guys open and those two young guys to be able to just run past people. So just to give a little bit of respect to a team that I don't
Oh,
really feel
absolutely.
too worried about. But I think those guys are forces to be reckoned with until proven otherwise. With Malik Neighbors, we don't really know. He's a rookie, but all accounts say that he's going to be awesome. So the Vikings get the first crack at him.
Yeah, but pointing out Malik Neighbors is it's necessary, right? And that's what kind of sucks about this Giants offense is I have high hopes for Malik Neighbors personally, but it really does feel like is that really it's Malik Neighbors? That's the guy on offense? Like that's it? And like when Jefferson came into the league, it was at least like, okay, well, we know what Cousins is, we know what Thielen's gonna be, and they've got I don't remember who it was that was stouting over Jefferson for the first couple of weeks, but it was like they're gonna walk Jefferson in, and no, Malik Neighbors, it's like, hey, buddy, you are the number one receiver for the New York Giants. And here's a hot take for you, by the way, just really quick. I don't think the throwbacks are that bad. I think the pants are bad with the tan pants. I'll give you that. You shouldn't play football in khakis. But the concept, I wish they had blue pants. If they had blue pants that match the stripe, they would be really a lot cleaner. But I get it. That's what uniforms looked like back in, the 20s, because that's the whole point, is it's like the 100-year anniversary. So I get it. They're trying to pay homage to the 20s, but like I'm pretty sure alcohol was illegal at that point. So I don't know that we need to that was the time called the Great Depression. And I don't know that we have to pay it that much classic where it's like, no, we have to wear the khaki pants. But I'll do mine first. I mean, I'll rip the Band-Aid off. I have this as a 20-10 Vikings win. I'm going to go 2 possessions because I'm an idiot and I don't learn my lesson from last year. We just laid it out, man. I mean, Malik Neighbors is the only threat that I see on this offense. I'm not saying that other guys can't, chip away at some damage, but in terms of taking a game over, I don't think the Giants possess the guy that can do that. And I think Brian Flores is 20 million% better than Ed Donatel. So I'm going with the Vikings, 20-10. And I'll let you get your score prediction in, and then we will do game balls. If you want to go ahead and do your game ball as well, feel free.
Obviously hinted at it last week. I have the Vikings winning this game. Similar to Jordan, hinted at it again before. It's going to be low scoring. 16-13 Vikings. We talked about it, and I think the defense is going to get after it. The offense is going to do just enough against a stout defensive front, and we'll start 1-0, and everyone's vibes are going to be super high. My game ball, like I mentioned earlier, new guy, intriguing guy, best kept secret, Andrew Van Ginkel is going to be my game ball. He'll lead the team in tackles. He's going to have a sack, and he's just going to be all over the field. Excited to see what he can do for this team.
Yeah, I love it. I think Van Ginkel is a really good pick. I told you this before the show, I'm trying to start off the year game ball wise pretty easy. Justin Jefferson seems like a safe bet for the first game ball of the year. I'm going with him. I think he is motivated to prove that he is quarterback proof. And this is where I get into my Justin Jefferson prediction. I'm just going to get it out of the way now, so I'll skip my final thoughts. But I think if we're going to see a wide receiver MVP, it's going to be this season. And it is going to be the Vikings have 7 wins, 7-10 wins, somewhere in that range. Sam Darnold is just throwing YOLO balls sometimes to Jefferson, as well as the scheme is just getting him open. If he stays healthy for the whole year, I think this has the potential to be his best statistical season. Because I think when you see like good quarterbacks, they start shying away from like staring the number one down, and they kind of share the love a little bit more. So it doesn't make sense whenever you think about as the Vikings, if JJ McCarthy's really good, Jefferson will get less stats. But I think if JJ is really good, Jefferson will get less stats. So that's my thought process is Jefferson, big year, and I think if he's going to win that MVP, the Vikings are going to look a lot like the 2012 Vikings in that, hey, the offense runs through one guy, and the defense is pretty good, and they don't have the quarterback situation figured out. At least the guy's not playing, right now. And, oh, hey, they made a wild card, and snuck in, and I think we got the doors blown off of us in the wild card round that year. But that was the Adrian Peterson MVP, where he almost broke the rushing record. I think Jefferson gets 2,100 yards this season. That's my bold final take thoughts. So my game ball is Justin Jefferson. Very excited about it. Thoughts?
That is fantastic. I think it's very bold. I'm not going to say it can't happen because Tyreek Hill was close to 2,000 last year, and he's got a really good receiver next to him. So I think if anybody's going to do it, if anybody's going to win MVP, it's Justin Jefferson on this team. And if he drags this team the postseason, which I should be more specific, drags this quarterback to the postseason, he's going to look even better, and there's going to be significant MVP chatter. I mean, if you look up and it's week 17 and the Vikings are in the playoffs, and it's going to be, I mean, he's going to have deserved some of those votes.
Yes.
So I love the bold take.
And it feels like a quarterback, like it will do for a non-QB to win MVP. And the reason I say that is because, like, I don't know, man. Lamar was kind of a down. Like, that was not. I did not think when I watched Lamar Jackson last year, like, that's the MVP. But nobody reached up and took it. And so I think Jefferson, when we start talking about MVP and we start getting into late November, December, if he is just all season long, just $125, $150, 200, $125, 200. Like, if he's just throwing these numbers up, I think it's gonna. If no quarterback really jumps up and says, like, I deserve the MVP, I think that it goes to Jefferson, and I think that this is the year to do it because I have him on my fantasy team, and it would be really beneficial to me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last year. I mean, Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy were in the MVP conversation for most of the year, and like, it's just. I also think we've reached a point with Patrick Mahomes where he's sort of doesn't really care about that as much. Maybe he does,
and he has to, and he's been so good for so long. He's kind of in that Tom Brady area where it's like you have to have this transcendental season to win an MVP, whether it be. And one thing that plays against Mahomes, his offense is kind of stacked. Like, they've got Ushi Rice, they've got Hollywood Brown, they've got Pacheco in the backfield, and then they, go out and they draft Xavier Worthy. So it's not like he's throwing to, like, stop signs out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year, he had a really bad set of weapons, and I think if he would have had a super gaudy statistical year, you could have given it to him. But I agree with the premise. And also, I just think that Mahomes he's sort of beyond the need to impress people. I think all he cares about is winning now. And I think the Chiefs have sort of entered that realm of they just play to win games, whether it's ugly or pretty. They don't really care. And so you might see some Mahomes games where he's got, 160 yards and just no turnovers, and that's all he cares about now. So, yeah. I mean, you watched the playoffs last year. It was just sort of like surgical and kind of boring. The Chiefs were not a flashy postseason team. They were just
efficient.
They'd go out, get the job done, efficient, wouldn't turn the ball over, and they won another Super Bowl. So, speaking of the Super Bowl,
love it.
Let's make our picks. Jordan, do you want to start in the AFC or the NFC?
Let's do the NFC because I've got that one pulled up. I'm just going to list, we'll list in the 7 playoff teams. So division winners and then the 3 wild cards. I have the Eagles, the Niners, the Lions, and the Buccaneers winning their respected divisions. And in the wild card, I have Arizona, Atlanta, and Minnesota.
And those are some spicy takes. For a second there, I thought we were going to just, copy each other, but then you started, deviating off and turning left.
The South is weird. The South is
weird. So when I initially looked at this, I also have the Eagles not because I think the Eagles are going to be great, by the way. I think they're probably going to win the division with 9 or 10 wins. I just think that the NFC East, they haven't had a repeat champion in 20 years. I don't think it's going to happen again. I don't think the Cowboys are going to win the division again. There's been too much noise, too much nonsense in Dallas. I think the Cowboys could miss the playoffs. I think you picked them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
if
they are
I
not.
heard you
They are
correctly.
not. They don't have a. The running back is Dalvin Cook or Zeke or Rico Dowdle. Like it.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like I get. I
And
don't know.
I'll get to mine before I give any sort of overviewing thoughts. So I do have the Eagles in. I have the Rams winning the West, and then I have Lions winning the North and the Falcons winning the South. Wild cards: Niners, Bears, and Cowboys.
Okay.
Probably caught last week. I gave the Vikings an 8-9 record. I don't think that makes the playoffs. So I think when I look at my picks, just quick, the South, like you said, is weird. That's one of those divisions that's been sort of putrid for the last few years. You get to week 16 and everybody's 7-7, and it's just kind of like you could win the thing with 8 wins, and it's just despicable. I think this year it could be a lot of the same. I think people have high hopes for the Falcons. I think the first year of any experiment is never going to be as good as you want it to be.
Unless it's
I think
Tom
they'll be
Brady.
a good enough team, unless it's Tom Brady. He doesn't count. I think if it's speaking of which, he's probably gonna just kill it at Fox too. He's got his first game this weekend.
I hope so. I'm excited.
But I think the Falcons they have enough talent. I don't trust Baker. I know he's done enough, but I just can't trust him. I thought the Buccaneers sort of backed their way into the playoffs last year. So I think, again, the Falcons are going to win that division with 9 or 10 games. Not going to be a super sexy division title, but
Not to like.
anything that. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to point out, and this is, I'm being petty, and you can tell me if I'm being petty, but if anybody knows anything about like a franchise that's like, we just need a good quarterback and we are Super Bowl contenders, it's the Vikings, who went out and got a young, healthy Kirk Cousins and then immediately missed the playoffs with basically the same roster that they had the year they went to the NFC title game. And I'm not blaming that on Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying I don't think Kirk Cousins is this Tom Brady, larger-than-life figure that is coming to Atlanta to turn them, to turn the franchise around. I think he's going to make them good. I have them as a wild card team. I just don't think that they are necessarily a lock to win the division. We are gonna do. So are we gonna do AFC and then championship game, Super Bowl?
Let's do AFC first, and then we'll do the championship games.
Okay, I will let you go first. I'll end my rant. I'll cut myself off before I get too anti-Cousins. Because I really don't want to talk about the guy like after this, like until we play him. Because there's no need
for the
to
team anymore. We'll talk about him in week 14, but like he doesn't play for the team anymore, so it's okay. We can be done with that topic.
I love it.
AFC. I think the AFC East is sneaky bad. A lot of people love the Jets. A lot of people love the Dolphins. I don't like either of them. I got the Bills winning that division sort of by default because I just don't think anybody else is very good. I think the Patriots are going to be awful. Of course, the Chiefs win the West. They always win the West. I think if you pick somebody else, you're just trying to have a hot take. The Bengals are winning the North. They come back. Joe Burrow's going to stay healthy, finally. The Texans are winning the South because C.J. Stroud is that guy, and D'Amico Ryans is that guy. And then wild card, Jaguars make an appearance back. Ravens slip under the rug. They make it back into the postseason. And the Chargers do make it back. Jim Harbaugh and the vibes are just too good. Justin Herbert is not going to make enough mistakes to knock them out of the playoffs. Those are my 7 AFC teams.
I am not brave enough to put the Chargers in the play. I know this doesn't matter. It's not like the winner gets $1 million. The Chargers, to me, who's catching the ball for them is my big question. Because like,
that's a fair concern.
Maybe Lad McConkey, maybe. So division winners, I agree. Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Texans. Wild card, we start separating a little bit. I actually think the AFC looks similar as to what it did last year. I have the Dolphins making it again. I hate Tua now because of what he said about my beautiful defensive coordinator Brian Flores, but I'm not going to deny their talent at the skill position. I think they'll first round exit again, but that is what it is. So they're one wild card team. I have. This is where it gets spicy because I really wanted to put the Colts in. I think Vegas has a shot to make the playoffs. I think Vegas is the sleepo. Where the hell did that come from, team? I love the running back. They've got Devontae Adams. I think Minshew is competent, and I love what they're doing defensively. I've got Vegas in as the 6th seed, and then this is where I really pick some crappy teams to be playoff teams in the AFC. I should probably go with Baltimore. I'm going to go with Baltimore. Never mind. I'm going with Baltimore making the playoffs. I was going to go with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was the penciled-in pick. Pittsburgh penciled-in pick. Wow, that's a lot of P's. Pittsburgh, that division's going to be solid. The Browns are going to be in the basement of it, I think. Pittsburgh's not going to be that bad. If TJ Watt stays healthy, that defense does what it does. Russell Wilson, I think, is a step above what they were getting out of, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Kenny Pickett. Yes, and Justin Fields just is chaotic, and I'm sure he'll see the field at some point. I will go with Baltimore. The AFC's kind of stacked. Like, it's actually kind of, like, looking at it, like, I believe in Vegas, but, like, holy cow. I'm not having the Jets make it, and the Jets might be good. Like, they have a really good defense. They have good skill positions, and Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, but he's 40 years old coming off an Achilles. And then I left everybody else out of the AFC South out of this conversation, even though some people are saying Anthony Richardson for MVP this season, which is nuts. But I don't know, man. I mean, nobody expected Mahomes to do it his second year in the league, and
It's true. I think I saw this stat, though. Anthony Richardson has played like 4 NFL games, and he left 2 of them with injury. So
yeah, he's definitely he's in a tough way. So let's stay in the AFC. Let's do our conference champions. In the conference championship, I have the Bengals and the Chiefs. It's pretty chalk. It's not that exciting. And I have the Bengals winning. I have the Bengals representing the AFC. Chris Sims said this. That is his AFC championship game. Chris Sims said that is only fitting. The people to end the three-peat dream would be Cincinnati. So I have Cincinnati ending it. Who do you have in the championship game and going to the Super Bowl out of the American Football Conference?
I thought about Cincinnati. I couldn't quite pull the trigger. I've got the Chiefs and the Texans. I am very intrigued. I know they're the sexy pick. I know everyone's all in on the Texans this year. And I normally like to be the contrarian, but I think looking at the other teams, I don't see Baltimore doing it again. Cincinnati, I just think the vibes just aren't great right now. They're not paying Jamar Chase. He's mad at everybody. You just don't trust the organization in general. I don't trust Joe Burrow's legs or his hair.
All fair criticisms.
So, when I look at the AFC, I've got the Texans, but I got the Chiefs making the Super Bowl again. It's so boring, it's so lame. I look at what that team has become, and like I said, they're just a boring machine now, and that is the most terrifying thing in the world as an opposition of a dynasty.
Yeah.
Is when you become the San Antonio Spurs or the New England Patriots, and you just start churning out wins like it's the only thing you do, and it's a boring way to win, but I don't know. I think it's scary now that we've gotten to the place where Mahomes and Andy Reid can win games without big plays, without flashy plays, and they just go and just sort of cut you to death. And I can't pick against them until they show to me why we shouldn't. Last season, we all thought they were going to be dead in the water, right? They were bad. They lost to the Raiders by 1,000,000 points at home. They snuck into the playoffs as a 3 seed, compared to their normal year of being a 1 or 2 seed. They didn't host the AFC Championship game. We all thought this is finally the year that Mahomes doesn't make the AFC Championship game, and they just put it together in the playoffs. So Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl again. I'm sorry.
Oh, they're winning it. They're not just going. We haven't done the NFC yet.
Oh, they're winning the Super Bowl. I'll just say that now. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, what's your National Football Conference? It loses some hype now, but who are you sacrificing to Patrick Mahomes out of the NFC?
I am sacrificing Jared Goff to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions folks are going to make the Super Bowl, and they're going to meet their old nemesis Matthew Stafford in the NFC Championship game. It's going to be fun. And Stafford's going to go to Ford Field again and get booed, and his number 9 jersey is going to be banned from the stadium again, and he's going to lose again. I had the hardest time picking the NFC game because I don't see a clear favorite. I don't see a clear gold standard in this conference. And that's good. That's exciting for football. I mean, I could see any 7 of the teams that I picked missing the playoffs. I could see that happening.
Yep.
I could even see the Lions missing the playoffs if things bounce against them. But I think they got better in the offseason. I think they were really good last year, and I hate to say it as a division rival of theirs, but I kind of think what we saw last year is just the beginning for this team. And honestly, now they're not really the sexy pick anymore. People are talking about the Bears. People are talking about the Packers. 49ers always get publicity. The Lions are sort of just chugging along, and they haven't gotten much noise this offseason. And I kind of think that's probably what they like. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to smash some people in the mouth. So I think the Lions start their season with a win over the Rams on Sunday Night Football, and I think they end the Rams season in the same fashion.
Shucks, that's tough for Detroit to go Heartbreaker NFC Championship game, Heartbreaker Super Bowl. I mean, where do you go from there? I mean, I guess win Super Bowl. It would be the next logical step. But you're forgetting one very important detail about the history of football, and that is the Lions suck. So the Lions won't make the NFC Championship game again. Instead, this year it will be the Bucks and the Niners, with the Bucks going to the Super Bowl. Will, don't tell me that you don't believe in Baker Mayfield. What's that old meme from Chronicles of Narnia? It's like, don't cite the ancient text to me, which I was there when it was written. I scouted Baker Mayfield. I was so upset that he was going to go number 1 because I remember him grabbing his junk against Kansas when he was at Oklahoma. I loved the guy. I think he takes a step. I really do. And I think the Bucks play solid defense. I think they have one of the low-key best running games in the NFL, and I think they ride that train. They get a little bit of revenge on Detroit throughout it. And they go to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to pick them to beat Cincinnati because this doesn't matter. No one's going to care about this 20 years from now. But I think it would be pretty funny if the Bucks beats. I don't know. Like, that's funny to me. Like, Baker Mayfield, was a Brown, then he wins a Super Bowl. Cleveland has to deal with that, and he beat, the other Ohio team. Like, it just all comes kind of full circle for me. But I would not be shocked if the Bengals won the Super Bowl this year. I know the vibes seem off. The vibes are going to get there pretty quick because I don't think, like, San Francisco, the vibes are off because Ayuk and Purdy and Williams, and, like, it's all just kind of like a mucky weirdness, and they don't really have that, like, built-in chemistry. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, I think you could blindfold them, and they could probably put up 200 yards in an NFL game. They are that. I mean, they're like that. And then you add T. Higgins into that mix. Andre Yoshivas is one of my favorite football players. He's just the Greek Randy Moss. Like, I can get down with it. Also, spoiler, the Vikings win a playoff game this year. That is my other. They go to the divisional round and get ran through by somebody. Hopefully, I mean, obviously not Detroit. I don't have them. So we'll say it's San Francisco. They punish us for bringing Sam Darnold to the divisional round of the playoffs. But yeah, I figured I'd drink the purple Kool-Aid for this one. I already gave my final thoughts. I kind of went into my Jefferson take. So just Chop Unified. Follow us. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about this Giants game that is to come. We will recap that, look ahead a little later in the week to the week 2 matchup against San Francisco. And I don't know. I feel like I'm going to get made fun of a lot whenever the Buccaneers miss the playoffs and only win 6 games. But you know what? I'll wear it with pride like I wear my gold-plated chain with pride. Will, I'll pass it off to you to take us home for the first time this season. There's football after this. Get us hyped. Get me ready. I'm about to hit a pass set.
That's all I've got to say. There is real football in 2.5 hours. Real football. The Vikings don't play. I don't care. It's real football. I'm ecstatic. I'm stoked. Vikings play in 3 days. So excited. It's going to be a fun season. It's an unknown season, which is exciting. At least for those of us who are sickos and watch every press conference and check the injury report 4 times a week. So we will be back on Monday. We're going to recap the Giants. We're going to prep you for the 49ers. Let's get going. Let's have fun. Skol, y'all.